Thank you, thank you. And once again, welcome to Interfaith Spiritual Center Worldwide, where we know that nothing happens by chance, that everything is by divine appointment. That we heard the call this morning, we answered that call, and out of it we showed up. And if you are tuning in at this moment, this message is for you. Because we know that energetically we are always drawing unto us exactly what we need, even though it doesn't always look like it. So the theme for the month is the wizard within, that each and every one of us goes within to that secret place of the Most High. We pray to our Father, Mother, God in secret, and we are acknowledged openly by the outward demonstrations of our lives. This is how the law works, as within, so without. And when we come together in community, we feel that synergistic mind of God, as I was saying previously, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, then that energy is lifting us to a new realm of understanding. And I love our way of life because I feel that this is the path to enlightenment, and that everything that is wanted and needed is already there for us. Be still and know that I am God. Today's topic is the courage to be. The wizard within that goes before us and prepares the way as we become the light into our own path, our own energy field. And what I love about the Cowardly Lion is, he had a lot of bravado. And he had, he was really playing it tough, and he was chasing Toto all the way around and around and around. And finally Toto jumped in Dorothy's arms, quivering. And what did Dorothy do? Her warrior energy came up and she slapped him on the nose and said, "How dare you pick on someone littler than you and so small and defenseless?" And what happened? The lion, in all his fear and cowardliness, began to sob and to apologize and to say that he was even scared of his own shadow and all the little things in the forest, and they had all come through the forest. And thinking there's lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Well, guess what? They're all components of consciousness as well, the lions, the tigers, and the bears, oh my. So energetically, we come together, we're all that Dorothy consciousness, that divine feminine that stands at our right side, and our left side, and the divine masculine that stands at our right side. That we are coming forth out of that energy. And it takes courage to be in the world. It takes courage to live our lives. It takes courage to take our first conscious breath, get up in the morning, begin our day, and the call to be here. And when we accept that call to be here, that in itself is a courageous thing to do. And then to be in the world, to go through our daily round, which the Hindus call samsara. To go through our daily round and to have that which is within us that transforms that energy of samsara to nirvana, which is the highest state of heaven that we can attain to. Nirvana. We believe that heaven is a state of consciousness. And Jesus said it. He said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. That you can low here and low there. In other words, you can look all around. It's not out there in the relative world. And believe me, that's not the real world. People go, well, in the real world. No. The real world is within us. The real world is the eternal energy of Christ consciousness that lives and moves and has its being at the center of our one life. So we're looking at the courage to be, and to be courageous in life is to take a stand on our life and what we believe in. And sometimes I want you to know it's very uncomfortable. And I've been in public life a long time. And energetically, I've certainly had my moments. And then to draw the larger circle. He drew a circle that shut me out, right? But Love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. That takes courage. I think it takes courage to also to forgive. And what I know is that we take the information from the experience and no longer hold on to it as the grudges and the little pettiness and the stuff that, and you know, some of the suffering that we've gone to is pretty large as well, huge. And to know that we came in to experience that, to deepen the quality of our lives. So even the flying monkeys and the witches were there for Dorothy's growth, for her unfoldment. And when we have these experiences that come up in our lives, to have the courage to face them and to deal with that energy, to work through it, to come out on the other side of it. And all the components of our consciousness that show up as the scarecrow that feels, you know, he's not intelligent enough. The tin man that feels there's not enough heart within him. And the cowardly lion that's looking for courage. They're all looking outside themselves. But the answer is within us. Be still and know that I am God. And, you know, I'm going to get my mileage out of these ruby red slippers that Robbie gave me. I've never had anyone where I admired something, have them take them off and say, here, I want you to have them. They're just a little uncomfortable for me, so I broke them in for you. So I'm getting my mileage out of my ruby red slippers, knowing that that wicked witch of the West is not going to get my ruby red slippers, because they are glued onto my feet, and they are on the yellow brick road, and that yellow brick road represents enlightenment, and we grow brick by brick by brick by brick in consciousness. We have that which is within us that transforms all these amazing obstacles and blocks into stepping stones for greater awareness and greater enlightenment within ourselves. That when we see the light penetrates the dark. And the Bible says, in the darkness, what? Comprehendeth it not, and shadows flee away forever. And those shadows are products of our consciousness. So in those moments of putting our foot on the yellow brick road of enlightenment, and we're on our way to the emerald city of truth. And remember, green is the heart chakra. Chakra in the ancient Sanskrit means a wheel of spinning energy in a clockwise fashion. That heart energy opens as a portal we walk through. We know the heart is the seat of the soul. And then as we speak our truth into existence, the power center is the throat center. That which we utter becomes the outer. We speak our word, we decree a thing, and it is established unto us. So that's why when Mary Baker Eddy, the founder of Christian Science, which really religious science came out of that, except that Dr. Ernest Holmes said that if we're calling upon the power of the universe to heal us, and it includes doctors, so be it. Doctors are divinely guided and directed, ideally, with that Hippocratic oath. So energetically, everything is there to support our unfoldment on the path, on the yellow brick road that moves in a spiral. And there are times that we have detours and we have stuff that comes up and we feel delayed and we get, you know, that kind of energy. We're working up that kind of irritated energy. And when I go through that, to me it's a signal. It's a trigger symbol. Breathe, sit down. Breathe through this. Because I also believe in divine delays. And at those moments that we're rushing around, be still and know. And to sit down, to let go and let God do what God does best, is to be guided and directed and to listen to that still small voice. And it always comes in a whisper. Of course, if we don't hear the whisper, or we choose not to acknowledge the whisper, it gets a little louder, and finally a little louder, and then it's so loud that we can't deny it, because it's totally gotten our attention. And usually not in a way that I would recommend. When I was 22 years old, I was in an auto accident. I went through the windshield and then the dashboard. And my husband also, he went, his head hit the windshield. Those were the days that seat belts were not invented. And I was laid up for 9 months. Of course, I was putting him through school and a job that I absolutely hated. I went from being an airline stewardess and then at 21 years old, married my husband, putting him through school, and went to be a telephone operator, and it was just not a vibrational match. And I used to talk back to the customers too. I was always up on the carpet. So at 21 years old, so I was laid up, I created the whole thing. We look at taking responsibility for what we create and what we attract into our lives. 9 months. 9 months, isn't that interesting? The 9 months of giving birth to a higher energy. I had a little Indian woman that lived in our apartment complex. Her name was Thelma. And she was, I used to call her the fairy witch. She was just she was a mystic presence. And she used to come down and talk to me, and she was, like 4'10". And she brought me a book. And the book was Psycho-Cybernetics. And it was by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And he was a plastic surgeon. And what he discovered is that he would perform surgery on certain people, and they would still see them, look in the mirror and see the scar, or whatever it was that he was attending to. They wouldn't see this new person, they would see the old person that they were so used to seeing. And so he called it self-image psychology. And that when we have a healthy self-image, we see ourselves in a higher light. But if we are habituated to the way that it's always been, it's going to be always going to be the way it was. So she brought me this, and and he was talking about science of mind, and I was absolutely, I read every page. I read the book several times. And then I started taking courses and psychology and met the president of the Humanetics Institute and told him, and he was teaching from this book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And I ended up going to major universities and colleges and junior colleges teaching self-image psychology. And I was I was so primed for it. Because during that 9 months of healing, water on the knee and glass that was coming out of my forehead for months, energetically I gave birth to the energy of my destiny. For when I was 11 years old, giving my first sermon from the sandbox I turned over to make a pulpit out of. I was so resourceful. So when we look at our destinies and the opportunity that we have, that yes, when we look in the mirror, do we see the face of God shining back? Or do we see the wicked witch saying, oh, all right, my pretty, you're going to get yours, yes you are. Or do we see the face of Auntie M that says, I love you? Our Christ comes in disguises. And when Mother Teresa was in New York and she was founding an AIDS foundation, there were placards and there was just all kinds of going on in New York against forming this AIDS foundation, and it was a home that she was founding and a place for AIDS patients. And a journalist came up from Time magazine and said, well, what do you think of this, Mother Teresa? She said, they are each my Christ in distressing disguise. And she went about her work. She didn't give it any more energy. Placards and screams and all of that, she just went about her Father's business. Her Father, Mother, God's business. And creating this space for people in need. So we're about our Father, Mother, God's business. It might not be the popular thing to do, but it's our call to our destiny and the courage to be. So don't we love it when the Wizard of Oz, who was really Professor Marvel, comes out from around that curtain and he gives the lion his badge of courage. That each of us have earned a badge of courage in our lives. Every time we've taken action, every time we draw the larger circle, every time we take higher ground, every time we look through the appearance, the condition, and the effect that says otherwise, we draw the larger circle. And we grow and we evolve. And this is the demand that life makes of us, is that we grow and we evolve. And that we're going to have all kinds of things come up in our experience, but we are part of that scarecrow mentality. And the truth is, we're enough. There's a genius within us that lives and moves and has its being, that can discern energy. There is the heart of the matter, and sometimes we need to oil ourselves up so we can get flexible and move and flow in life as a dance. And those acts of courage, everyday acts of courage, and the opportunity to know that your good makes mine possible. Your success makes mine possible. My good makes yours possible. My success makes yours possible, because there is only one. And in this oneness do we live and move and have our being. I was once told of a story where a woman was having a portrait done of herself. And she had the artist come in, and she said, I want you to I want a diamond necklace, put a diamond necklace in, I want a diamond bracelet with, really 10 carats and more, I want diamond rings. And the artist said, I'm really happy to do that. But, why exactly do you want me to do that? He said, well, when I die, and if my husband remarries, I want to drive her crazy looking for the stuff. So energetically, when we feel threatened, when we feel, that we need to look outside of ourselves and that we can't draw that larger circle to know that even when we're not on the planet, we want the highest and best for one another. And when we want the highest and best for one another, that is the energy that is eternal. That is the energy that draws us up into the everlasting arms of God's love and allows us to see through the appearances, to not buy in to whatever the latest fear stuff is. I want you to know my Apple computer had suddenly, it went dee, 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 and then it had a number to call immediately. Well, I have my Apple computer insured, and so I called the insurance, and I said, my computer's locked, there's this unbelievable beeping sound, and I said, you just cleaned it last week. And he said, oh yeah, that's scareware. And he just did a few things, from his end, did a few things, and all disappeared. I said, scareware? Oh my gosh. I said, I'm going to talk about that Sunday because there's a lot of scareware on the planet right now, and not always in the form of this beeping, beeping, and our computer shuts down and is locked. That we buy into the scareware. We buy into the fear-based thinking. The courage to be is to see through it and to get on the solution level and not as an ostrich with our heads in the sand. We are activists. We are peace activists. We are spiritual activists. We are light workers. We are light bearers, and we're sending out that light. And for those that are intolerant, we're sending love to them and compassion. Because if someone is intolerant, they have a deep insecurity within themselves. They need our love and compassion. That takes courage. The courage to be all that we can be is the opportunity that we have to send out the energy that we believe in, that we speak of, that we live this energy. And it's really challenging in the face of when someone puts out a less than loving energy to us. It's very challenging. But the truth is it has nothing to do with you. You just, brush the dust from off thy feet and go thy way in peace, as Jesus said. And he became the Christ because his humanness gave way to the divine, and the Christ consciousness arose triumphant and victorious. So today, the courage to be who we are, who we came in to be, to fulfill our destiny, to come out on the other side of that, to know that the lion-hearted, and I loved when Fleet sang that beautiful song, the lion-hearted is within our own heart and soul, and that this is a journey of the soul. And guess what? The Emerald City of Truth is right where we are, and that does make all the difference. So today I greet you not quite as the world greets you, but with profound esteem and the recognition that if we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful wizard within, our life is going to expand in amazing, amazing ways. And we're going to go somewhere, and you know where that is? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. Because we are in a high place. and we will not come down. None of these outer things move us. We are in a high place, and we will not come down. I say to you, Namaste. The God in me salutes the God in you, and the God in you salutes the God in me. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, there truly is only one of us. I say shalom, the peace that passes all understanding in this beautiful Lieberman Chapel. And God bless us, everyone. I love you, I'm grateful for you, and I really know that we are going higher yet.